All right, everyone. Welcome back to Formation the podcast. We are here with our very special guest in the studio.
Virtual studio, that is,
Virtual
because we
studio.
can't all be together, right? So you've heard his voice on F1 TV, Channel 4, Drive to Survive, and honestly, you've probably heard it in your dreams as well, because if you've ever fallen asleep to a race replay, you've heard him. Please welcome the one and only Alex Jacques. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, we'll get straight into it, Alex. We are, still convincing ourselves that this is real. Will the real Alex stand up? He's moving, guys. It's not a green screen. He's really here with us.
How has your week been? Have you recovered from Vegas? By the size of that coffee cup in your hand, do you ever really recover?
No, my coffee tolerance is pretty high at this stage of the season, to be honest. Vegas is such an incredible event because from a TV point of view, you have a group of people in the UK producing it who are doing it through the middle of the night. So the hours are, and I know, speaking to two people in Australia, that you know the pain of watching Formula One in the middle of the night. So you've got all the TV crew back at base in the UK going through the night. You've got everyone on site dealing with the amazing spectacle that is Vegas, but it is a very unusual place to have a Grand Prix. There's obviously so much going on there. It's not a purpose-built facility. And so it's the most imposing place to have a temporary race, because you're getting in the way of something that exists for 51 weeks of the year in a fairly busy way. It makes for an incredible atmosphere and an amazing event, but an intense one, and a very intense one at the end of the year. And that's before you even get the green light and you get the cars on the track, which obviously turned out to be somewhat dramatic before and after this week. But amazing. I think it's an amazing racetrack. It's obviously not Spa or Silverstone when it comes to one-lap qualifying. But in terms of an amazing overtaking opportunity at the end of the strip, you've got overtaking guaranteed, and we've seen that across 3 years now.
Well, that brings us to one of our questions we actually had about Vegas. Do you think it's finally earned its spot on the calendar? Because there's been so much talk over the years saying it's, all for show and it's not for racing. And, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's definitely earned its spot?
I think you can overtake around there, right? I mean, from a commentator's point of view, I obviously work for F1 TV, so say that straight off the bat that you're always looking for a good race. The other parts of the business are looking for the show, what it can do for the TV product. We're looking for a good motor race. That's all the commentary box is interested in. And I think we've had 3 good motor races around there. It's just the fact you've got that guaranteed overtaking opportunity no matter what type of regulations that we run. So we know that next year it will still be a great opportunity at the end of the strip. So I think the skepticism that might have greeted it at the start of the deal has just been replaced with, no, Vegas, you're going to get overtakes. And so it's a great spectacle, but most importantly, it's delivering a great motor race, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. So, Alex, with Vegas in mind, the one question that we've come away with this weekend, and one question that I'm sure our listeners are wanting to know, if you were a betting man, who are you putting your money on to take it this year's Drivers' Championship?
This is the most ridiculous season in terms of seesawing fortune and odds. I mean, we've had Oscar lead for 15 rounds. We've had Max looking at one point. I mean, he was the bookie's favourite. He was the bookmaker's favourite after Austin, even though he was still miles back because he looked like he was going to win every race and just rattle it off 2023 style. And then Lando had basically won the title by the time we came off air. Certain people on our broadcast team were thinking about what paddle courts they were going to book for Abu Dhabi. All right. So the mindset was pretty clear with the production team at the end of the race, and then suddenly you're back to anyone's game, and it is incredible to have a season this long, to go to 24 races, and for it still to be anyone's championship. I wouldn't put a penny on anyone winning. I think what happened with the disqualification is it's now made it more likely for Max and Oscar, in that Max is going to start approaching it like he's in the championship. Whereas I think for the second half of the season, he's just been having a home run competition or a hitting for the boundary competition because there's been no chance to win it. There's been no realistic chance to win it. And so he's just been like, here's a pole position, here's a race win. Oh, look, I did it again. This is quite fun. The pressure's off. But suddenly there's got to be a bit of his brain that goes, this wouldn't just be a championship. This would be the championship. You get one opportunity in your entire career to land the comeback of all comebacks. And he's going to have to go wheel to wheel with Lando and Oscar to get that. We believe, unless something really strange is going to happen in the last two races. So, but that by its nature means that there's more likely to be contact if you're disputing the lead in the final races of a championship, which I think gives hope for Oscar to clear the 24 points as well at two tracks where he's proven to be quick at, which, let's face it, the last 5, 2 years in a row, 3 years in a row, he's just not had the form at the circuits that we've been through. So he's been through his difficult run. So it's a total reset, which is a bewildering thing to come off air, and it's always strange. I never mind when it's a technical penalty because the cars have got to be within the rules. When it's a sporting penalty that changes the result, it's one of my least favourite things because everyone's turned up, the drivers have put on a brilliant performance, and then you get a sporting penalty and you go, well, that was a nice use of our Sunday, but it didn't count for anything. But when it's a technical penalty, what can you do? So honestly, I know it's a big, long non-answer to your question, but it obviously gives Max and Oscar a chance that realistically just wasn't there at the end of Saturday night.
All right. Well, I'm going to pivot that question slightly then, seeing as we didn't get, a definitive answer from you on that one.
Yeah.
Who do you want to win the 2025 Drivers' Championship, Alex?
That's a good question. That's a brave question. I like that. I like that a lot. I'll tell you who I want to win the Drivers' Championship. The driver who puts in 2 lung-busting performances in the last 2 races. There's a lot of talk, and there is always a lot of talk about bias in commentary boxes. And I'll tell you, in my experience, great sports broadcasters are biased towards it being good. We want it to be good. We want it to be exciting, and we want it to be epic. And the great thing is, all 3 drivers winning is an amazing story. It's an amazing story. If you've got Lando winning, you've got a driver who's had to haul himself to the top of the mountain, that he's had to deal with all that pressure, he's had to deal with the critics, and he's come up with an answer. That's epic. If Oscar wins, he's only the 3rd Australian driver to ever win the title. Pretty good company as well. Jack Brabham and Alan Jones. That's a pretty epic club to be part of. And let's be honest, Oscar is slightly counted out at the moment. So that comeback would be special. And talking of comebacks, if Max wins, it's the comeback of all comebacks. We'll refer to it for the next 100 years. So it's not a bad. So I want it to be exciting. I don't want someone to rattle off 2 wins in a row and win by 30 seconds. I want it to be epic. And that's what I want to happen. You've got to be neutral behind the mic. But luckily, when all 3 outcomes are extraordinary stories, you can be happily into whoever crosses the line to take it. But yeah, I want it to be exciting.
Yeah, no, for sure. And we agree. We definitely agree. I think I'm of that opinion of I'm excited. Whoever wins, like you said, the story is fantastic behind all 3. Al over there is backing our boy Oscar till the end of time. So she'd love a comeback kid. Yes, no.
That's just only because Natalie's a heartbroken Ferrari fan at the moment, but we can come back to that.
We will.
So
you knew what you were signing up for, Natalie. You knew what you were signing up for.
She knew.
It's true. It's true. I've resigned myself this season. I'm looking onwards and upwards to 2026 because that's all I can do at this point. So, like you, I'm just excited that the title fight's going to hopefully go down to the final race. And as a fan, what more could I want, really? So here we are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, obviously coming back to the point of staying neutral while commentating and being behind the mic, there may be some favourites behind closed doors, but that's fine. We won't poke that bear. But so what does that mean for you? Does that mean you've got team merch on a 10-day rotation, or do you just recycle them through just to give them all like an even split? How does that look?
I'll tell you how it works. I was really lucky to be the Formula 3 and Formula 2 commentator when I was making my way through the ranks, and that was an amazing job. And I think what that gives you a great appreciation of is how many drivers give their entire childhood over and have their family surrounding them, trying to make it to Formula One and get nowhere near. So the ones that do actually reach the level, let's take Oscar, for example. You know, he runs the championships, doesn't he? He gets Formula Renault, Formula 3, Formula 2. And he was under the pressure to win those championships immediately, right? So when you see the amount of commitment that families and the sacrifice that these drivers make, the idea of then going, I'm actually a broadcast journalist and I have my favorites, would be so pompous and ridiculous that you couldn't. It's insulting to the effort that they've given. And obviously you work in the paddock. It's like a normal office. You have people that you chime with. You have people that you know are sort of just colleagues with in that regard. But yeah, you effectively, you got to give them the respect that they have given absolutely everything to be there. They've not lived normal lives. Yeah, it comes with big rewards, and the rewards are amazing. But equally, they're all racers. The trappings, the fame, the money, they just want to win races. They just want to win big prizes, and they've given over a normal existence to try and do that. And I think you've sometimes heard that with Max, whose entire life has been engineered to win championships like this. Yeah, and you've heard him talk about stopping a fair bit in recent times, just purely, I think, to get maybe a little bit of control, maybe feel like, okay, well, I wasn't hugely in control of the journey, but I'm definitely in control of the next chapter. And I think him being at ease of that has allowed him to reach an unbelievable standard of driving. So yeah, no favorites, just appreciate the superhuman skill they've got.
No, for sure.
And superhuman indeed. Yeah.
Yes, superhuman. You touched on briefly there your journey into the job that you have now, which arguably is one of the best jobs in the world. I'm sure people everywhere are like envious of you and would love to be in your shoes. Was F1 always the goal? Did it happen organically? Or talk us through, how did you get to be the lead commentator on F1 TV? Because that is just an amazing accolade for your career. So talk us through that.
F1 was always the goal. Yeah, I found it. I found it as a 10-year-old. I was flicking through the channels. I always wanted to do it, and then obviously that's a bit of a long shot, right? When you grow up in Ipswich and you don't know anyone in the industry, and there was no obvious path to it. But equally, I knew I was going to go into the media, so that was always going to be my subject of choice. And I always wanted to do that. And it didn't matter if I was going to be a producer or an editor and so I started off in local radio with the BBC, started doing one local radio station. I had a sports editor who really believed in me, lent me equipment, expensive equipment I wouldn't have been able to buy. I was then able to take that to go and do other football matches and then other sports. And I became the guy that you sent if you couldn't get anyone from your team to go. So if anyone from Leeds didn't want to send someone to Cardiff, they'd send me. And once you work out that mechanism means that there's constantly a game available for you at the weekend, you can rack up a lot of minutes on air very, very quickly. And I was able to go through the ranks with football and do other sports as well. And then I joined the Times newspaper. And then you're surrounded by some of the best journalists in the world. And that is the most amazing learning experience, because you're watching, say the crime reporter. Okay, it's got nothing to do with sport, but you're watching how he broke down a story, how he was able to just bring elements that, you'd read the same 10 pages of a report and you'd spot 2 things. He'd spot 8 things. He'd connect them. He'd do it in real time. And to see that level of journalism was incredible. And obviously you then pick up things that you can use. So at the weekends, I was going around talking into a microphone about sport. The weekdays, I was working at the Times newspaper on the audio and video team. And then Will Buxton wrote a blog saying he was giving up GP2 and GP3, which is now Formula 2 and Formula 3. And I looked around and I was like, I'm going to apply for that. Not that there's a formal mechanism to apply for it. He thanked 2 people in his goodbye sort of blog. They were called Dean and Jonathan. I used my journalistic skill. I dug out their emails. I researched and found their emails, sent them an email, and I was like, this is all the broadcasting work that I've done in the last 5 years. I think I'd be a good fit. I know motorsport inside out. I think I would be able to treat Formula 3 and Formula 2 the way that you treat Formula 1. And that was my pitch. I'm going to treat it with the importance. I'm not going to use it as a stepping stone. I mean, obviously, I then used it as a stepping stone, but there were 10 years in between. So,
Yeah.
but it wasn't meant to be a stepping stone. It was meant to be like, I love single-seater motor racing. This is some of the best motor racing on earth. Let me tell these stories in the detail that you tell Formula 1. And they loved the pitch and they gave me a go. And it's 10 years later. So it's a convoluted story for how it happened. But obviously there's some luck and timing involved there. But yeah, it was the goal, and I worked for an opportunity to present itself, and somehow it did.
That's incredible. That's honestly incredible. And it's just so great as well, because these stories are so important. You alluded to the fact that it's convoluted, but it is important for people to know, because it's great to hear that you put yourself in a position to be surrounded by people that weren't necessarily in the field that you were working towards, but skills that you could pick up along the way. And that's just invaluable. So yeah, that's awesome to hear.
And I think as well, you said, you didn't use it. It wasn't planned to be a stepping stone, but it just organically happened to be a stepping stone. You were resigned to the fact that if that, doing F2, that was your job, you were so happy with that. And I think that's why you were probably able to do your job so well, which then, people are like, we need this guy. So yeah, just
it's passion at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you can't, especially in this era, people see through you. We've got so many brilliant Formula One fans, and the one thing I've always loved about a Formula One audience, no matter what era we're in, whether the current one, whether the old one, whether the one in between where it looked like Formula One was slightly fading away, the audience are smart. The audience are so curious, and you can always learn more. I'm always learning more. So I think audiences, no matter what the subject, no matter whether it's news, sport, anything, people know if you're real about it. People know if you actually care about it. People know that if you've done your research about it. And the nice thing about Formula One is there are high expectations. There are high expectations that you know your subject inside out. But if I'd done Formula 2 for 20 years, I would have died a happy man, because it's elite motor racing. When I gave up Formula 3, I gave up Formula 3 after 7 seasons, and I was like, this, honestly, it sounds like a little bit twee, but I was like, man, this is weird. I'm not sure I'm hugely comfortable doing this. Formula 3 is a big deal. Like, the winners of the Formula 3 championship are great drivers, and I'm going to be in a point where I'm going to say, no, someone else can do that. So yeah, I've always had a sort of respect and revered the opportunities I've had. And I think the producers that I made the case to believed me at the time. And then the fact I wouldn't leave, and I only gave up Formula 2 last year because I love that championship. And then eventually real life comes through the door, right? And you can't say to your wife, oh, by the way, yeah, no, sorry, I'm not going to be back for another 4 hours because I'm doing the Formula 2 race at the end of doing an entire Formula 1 weekend. So eventually real life collides with your passions. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
No, and I think it definitely shows. I've seen a few clips of you, like the video footage when you're calling a race, and you can see your movement in your voice, if that makes any sense. When you listen to the race and we hear you after watching that video, I'm like, it all makes sense now. You have your whole body is watching the race, not just your eyes. And it definitely shows.
It's a weird one, that. Jolien and I would happily never have another commentary clip ever played out ever again. Because my duty is to the commentary, right? And so I might look a little bit of a turnip jumping around the commentary box, but like it's how I've done it. And so I'm into it. And then there are obviously things in the last 10 years whereby I have gone, let's say, charitably, slightly theatrical in the way that I like form the words or keep the energy up. And then obviously then someone shows it to you and they're like, all right, this is what you look like as a grown man of 36. And you're like, oh no, can we use another clip? And genuinely, occasionally on Mondays, there is a bit of a back and forth with our lovely digital team of like, guys, do you have to use that clip? And they're like, it's already live. Bad luck, loser. We've already showed the world. So
We've pushed it out and it's out in the ether.
Oh, that's great.
yeah.
So following on from that,
Yeah,
Alex, so, you've turned calling races into an art form, right? For fans hoping to follow in your footsteps, what's like a number one piece of advice that you have for either becoming a commentator or, making steps towards becoming a commentator?
As much experience as possible. It's a lot easier to be able to commentate on stuff that looks like motor racing these days, and you don't have to go to a circuit and do it. If you can get to a circuit and do it, that's invaluable, right? Because you're there, you'll meet the people in the paddock, and you'll be able to do it on the public PA. Doesn't matter if that's a go-kart track, doesn't matter if that's like mini racing, like anything you can do, get the reps, get the experience. You can also use esports, sim racing. You can use that. There are a lot of leagues out there, and it gives you an opportunity to just do it again and again and again and again. And what producers want to see is when you get in contact with them, and that's a skill to know who to send it to. What they want to see is they're very, very busy people, and they want to press play and be immediately hooked in and see that you know your subject, that you're passionate for it, and that you sound conceivable as an option for them in the future. And if you can do those things, and it's going to take some sacrifice, and it's going to take a little bit of your own money, and it's not easy, and you're going to get a lot of no's. That's, when I was applying for my first job out of university, I think I got about 80 no's before a radio station eventually took me on. That's the nature of it. It's the nature of doing a politics degree and then applying for a job in the media. No roads are straightforward.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, so it didn't make a lot of sense in 2010, let me tell you. Anyway, that's another story. But yeah, you've got to be able to just get some experience and then distill it down into a clip that a producer can hear and go, that's my person. That's who I'm. That's my option for the future. Producers need answers. They're very, very busy. There are 1,000 problems. Being a producer is fix this, fix this, fix this, fix this. Can you be the fix? And your presentation to them to try and get their attention is, I'm the fix. And if you can do that, you've got a fair chance of getting a slot. And then it's when you get your live slot, and it might be one chance, it might be one race, it might be one match, but that's when you have to take your chance. That's when it's be all and end all. That's when you pull a sickie and claim that you've got to have some dental work done for your 9 to 5, and you just prep and prep and prep for your opportunity.
Oh, amazing. You heard it here first, guys.
Yeah. And thanks to my boss who pretended that he didn't know exactly what I was doing when I was applying for the F2 and F3 job all those years ago.
Give him a shout out. All right. Well, we've touched on it that, you are at the top of your field. So we have a little challenge for you, Alex. Are you up for it?
Go on.
So we want you to call an intro into our podcast. We've got Nat and Al. We're going to give you a few facts first.
Yeah.
And we want to see what you come up with. So Nat and Al, we met when we were 13 years old in a dance class. Fast forward 15 years, we both realized we love Formula One, and, why not just start a podcast and see what happens? And here we are. So I'll leave you with that. Whenever you're ready, take it away.
Okay, sounds good. They met as children, but now, in their later years, they have joined together to create a podcast that reaches so many fans, united as one to debate one of the world's greatest sports. You're listening to Elle and Nat talk their way through another epic F1 weekend.
Woo! Well done.
Rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat.
That's going to be our new intro every week. We're just going to play that now at the start. I'm not doing it anymore. Thanks for that.
Oh, brilliant. Love that one.
Oh, yeah. That was good. Love that.
Oh. All right. So we're jumping straight into the next part of this episode, and we've got some quick fire questions for you. They're a bit fun. They're a bit random. Either yes or no answers or just one-worded answers are fine. Let's kick it straight off. Did Alpine do Jack Doohan dirty?
Oh, that is kicking it straight off. I mean, not how I'd phrase it, but yes.
Is Antonelli going to live up to all the hype he had before he was signed?
Yes.
What is the most chaotic race weekend you've ever worked?
There's some. Ooh, that's a good question. Sao Paulo 2024. Madness.
Oh,
Absolute mad.
Right.
Rain delays. Had to wake up at 3 a.m. and do the whole race. And Max Verstappen won from 17th on the grid. By the end, I
Yeah.
was just sitting down in a dark room with a caipirinha, which is
Yeah.
actually a great. It's actually a great life. I don't know what I'm complaining about. It's great.
sounds great.
All right. I don't know if you can answer this question because we did touch on before that you like to keep it neutral. So
Mm.
if you can't answer it about current drivers, we can go past drivers that aren't currently on the grid. Your perfect F1 team, we need 2 drivers, a reserve, and a team principal.
Ooh, I like this. Well, team principal, I'm going to go for Gunther Steiner because he's a very funny man and a lovely bloke. Mika Hakkinen was my favorite driver growing up as a kid, and his teammate at the time is now my very good colleague, David Coulthard. So let's have him as well. And we need a reserve driver.
Mm-hmm.
A reserve driver from the past. Who am I going to go for that I thought was just he'd always be? Let's go for Jenson Button. Let's chuck Jenson Button in there. He was coming through the ranks. He's only just retired, so yeah, he'll be a perfect reserve. Did I miss anyone else on?
No,
Yeah,
covered it.
perfect.
There we go.
What
Very
perfect
good.
lineup.
Lovely.
All right. Who has a better shoe collection, Lawrence or Ruth?
Oh man, that's the most controversial one so far. Ruth isn't in Qatar, so I'm going to say Lawrence.
You're safe. We'll let him know.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you had to describe your commentary style as a meal, what are we eating, Alex?
Oh, it's a lovely spicy curry.
Yum. Love that.
It makes sense. It makes sense in context. I'm not sure you'd want it for breakfast, but when it comes to Formula One, I think it makes sense in context.
I mean, a spicy curry for us two at 4 a.m. most weekends. Okay. Which current driver would you trust the least on a hot lap?
that is probably because he's always enjoyed winding me up, even though he's the nicest guy in the paddock, Alex Albon.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Alex Albon on a driver's parade once. We used to do an F2 driver's parade, which was just a mic test for the F1, but it was fun and the crowd got to see the drivers of the future. And when you've got Alex Albon, George Russell, Lando Norris on there, it was great fun. But he found a photo of me on my first day in the job, and I got this terrible like emo haircut because I'd gone to the barbers and they were shut, and I was just in a massive like faff about being the F2 commentator for the first time. And he waited until the driver's parade and then just like showed the world on his phone. So he's always loved winding me up. So yeah, I'm not sure about that man behind the wheel.
Oh, that's funny. Natalie, maybe we need to find that photo to add it to our artwork for this episode.
Yeah, for sure. We could use that.
Yeah, it's out there. Mainly because my executive producer, I swear he just uploads it every like 2 years or so it continues to be out there.
Refresh
Just
it.
keep it current. Perfect. And our last quickfire question, if commentating in F1 or motorsport wasn't an option, what other sport would you love to commentate as a full-time job?
Ooh. I wouldn't mind commentating on football, but specifically my beloved Ipswich Town.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to pretend that Spurs versus West Ham on a rainy December night is interesting. All right. Like that ship has sailed. That ship has sailed. If football commentators do an amazing job because the sheer volume that they have to do. But if I could commentate on Ipswich every week, that would be an amazing job. Sorry, that wasn't very quick fire. It's almost like when you get a commentator on the pod,
Right,
they
it's
just
actually-
waffle. They just waffle.
Actually clarified for us that you can pick favorites.
Yeah.
Well, that was it for quick fire.
We also just have 3 little rumors. We just want to get your perspective, fact or fiction. Do you
Mhm.
think there's any truth to it whatsoever? Leclerc to Aston Martin in 2027.
I'd be surprised.
Yeah.
Surprised. Aston Martin have got to make a big signing, but I think that is more Charles showing them that it's not unrequited love, that he's not going to spend his entire career there unless they give him the machinery.
Yeah. All right. Another Aston Martin themed question. Do you think we'll ever see Christian Horner as big boss in town down at Aston Martin?
I'd be surprised if it was that. I think the way that if Christian Horner comes back to F1, I think he would be investing money into a team. I'm not sure Aston Martin need that investment. So I'm
Yeah.
not sure it'll be there.
All right. And is Hadjar going to be Max Verstappen's partner next year?
I think he will be, and I think he deserves it. And I really feel bad for Yuki, because I think if Yuki had been at Racing Bulls this year, he would have probably rattled off 3 podiums. He's a victim of his own success. That second Red Bull seat breaks my heart, because those drivers, it's the thing I was talking about earlier. You work your whole career for that, and it's an amazing team of people, and they obviously have to prioritize Max, and they have to prioritize having one of the best drivers ever. And if he wins the championship, it's all justified. But the cost is brutal. So I hope that the regulation reset means that second Red Bull becomes competitive again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, we hope
completely
to
agree
see
with
it
everything
as
you
well.
just said. Yeah. All right.
I loved it. You said that almost in synchronicity. That was superb. That was great.
We spend way too much time together, if you can't tell.
We do.
All right. Well, thanks for, giving us your answers on those ones. You didn't have to, and we love your insight. We're going to jump ship now. We want to say a huge congratulations on the release of your book, Grid to Glory, to celebrate 75 years of Formula One. As two relatively new fans, like in the last decade, I always find myself, when there isn't a race on the weekend, I'm on YouTube, best wet race of the 2000s, best race of 1994, or whatever it is, because I just want to, you just want to keep watching racing. I think this is the perfect book for fans like us, because, we get to have a whole insight into the history of such an amazing sport. But we want to hear it from you. Why did you write the book? What can readers expect, and why do they need to buy a copy?
Purely for the reasons that you've outlined, really. We have so many new fans in recent times, and I spend a lot of the broadcast referring to old stories that have relevance today. Wrote loads of intros with amazing things that happened in the past, and I thought, well, let's put it all together, because we do have, of any sport in the world, we must have, and I'm plucking this out of thin air, but I can't think of another sport or a championship that has so many new fans, and therefore you've got different knowledge points. For example, if a football commentator was to say Manchester United were sensational in the 90s, the audience would be like, of course they were, you moron. Why have you just told me that? But then we have so many fans who didn't see Michael Schumacher winning titles at exactly the same time. And with that in mind, I was like, let's write the backstory. So for seasoned fans, I've tried to take the big stories and tell them from a slightly different perspective. So Frank Williams getting his injuries, I've tried to tell from the perspective of his wife. And so come at the big stories from a different direction and fill in the blanks. And for newer fans that have never heard, hey, Jack Brabham nearly quit to be a truck driver. Yeah, that's right. We nearly didn't have a 3-time world champion who, if Oscar wins the title, I mentioned him today. Not even talking about the book. And that guy nearly chucked it all in, wasn't a driver. Frank Williams, Ron Dennis, they ran Brabham's, customer Brabham cars. So they have to buy the car from somewhere else. The ripple effect from that changes motor racing. So I wanted to get 75 short stories in there, tell the ones that I was interested in, tell the ones that I didn't know when I did some research and I was like, you'll never believe this. And try and just put it into 320 pages that you can pick up and dip into. And then when you find a YouTube video that's Schumacher winning in biblical rain in Spain in 1996, just flick to that chapter and just flick to that understanding. And that was the idea behind the book.
Amazing.
That is awesome. Well, and with Christmas around the corner, what a perfect gift. I'm sure all our listeners, wouldn't mind a copy. Where can they grab a copy?
All good bookshops, all bad bookshops. I don't honestly know where they can, but you can find it. Yeah, buy
it's on
it for
Amazon.
someone.
That's where I got mine.
Very good. There we are. It's on Amazon. Yeah, nice plug for Amazon. They need a little bit of a few more sales, don't they?
So
yeah. But But no, you should be able to find it here, there, and everywhere. And yeah, it's written in a light-hearted way. Obviously, the serious chapters we give all the due respect to, but it's written in a fairly accessible way by design, and just tries to be a whistle-stop tour of the championship history.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lovely. Thanks for that. And congrats.
Beautiful. Yeah. Congrats again. Well, before we
Oh.
close out the episode, sorry.
No, you go.
Good. Before we close out the episode, we're going to finish off with your predictions as we go into the Qatar GP. 2 races to go. I know my heart's pounding. Everyone's is, I'm sure. Each week, Natalie and I give our predictions for who we think is going to take out pole, who's going to be on P1, 2, and 3. And then we also give an honourable mention. So that can be a Sauber in the points. It can be anything you want, really.
Yeah.
So that's how we do it. What are your predictions, Alex?
I'm going for Lando Norris on pole, and
Sorry, Al.
That's all right. I can handle that.
And then, honestly, I don't know what to say for the race, because I've got no idea whether the problem that affected McLaren in Vegas has one fast corner. Vegas should not be a place where your plank gets worn away. Qatar is only corners, medium and high speed corners. So if McLaren do have a problem in this department, we're going to literally the worst track on the planet to show up this. This is way worse than China when Ferrari got disqualified for plank wear, or Austin, even though those places are bumpy. So I honestly don't know, but I've got to give you an answer. So I'm going to go for Lando to take pole and Max to win the race, Oscar to finish second, and Lando to finish third. And we all roll on to a title decider. And Jolyon doesn't get to play paddle like he wants to.
We'll be keeping an eye on that one.
Before you tell us your honourable mention prediction, if Lando and Max are both on the front row, are they coming out of turn 1 clean?
It's very hard to say, because obviously those two, it's going to be intense, isn't it? It's going to be intense. Those two, it's just a different dynamic for Lando when Max is involved. That is clear.
Mm-hmm.
And Miami is the perfect race to show you that earlier in the season. So I don't know, but the fact we don't know is what we love about live sport. Yeah. Honourable mention. I'm going to go for. I'll mention who deserves. I think this is the joy of being at the end of the year. I'm trying to pick like a bolter from the blue. Alex Albon to get back in the points. My God, that boy needs it. He's been driving brilliantly, but he's on a miserable run, isn't he? So let's have Albon back in the points, and a strong finish at the end of the year.
Oh, love to see it. Well, thanks for sharing your predictions.
And just to round it out, we want to say thank you so much for joining us. You don't know how much we appreciate it. Still not sure if it's the real you, but I'm sure once I start editing the video, I'm like, yes, no, it was him. It was great. So no, thank you so much for your time. Especially, we know how precious your time is, being here, there, and everywhere. So yeah, just want to say a big thank you, Alex.
Ooh, what's happened at the end there? Has it crashed at the end?
Oh no, he's frozen. Oh, there he is.
You said a really lovely thank you, and then my internet was like, no, too sentimental. Good night. So no, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's lovely to talk to you about Formula One. And yeah, if you're in Australia, you can listen to us do the final few races on KO. You just got to click alternative stream, and you can hear us yak about Formula One.
Perfect. Will do. Noted.
Absolutely. Well, thanks to everyone for joining us for another episode. We'll be back really quick, just in a couple of days, to recap what happens over the weekend. So we'll do your breakdown, bring you the drama, and I'm sure we'll have a few broken hearts. Maybe not. We'll see. But thanks for joining us again, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.